Hello, West Virginia Baptist Convention family. I'm David Holm, and we'd like to welcome you to Family Talks. My guest today on Family Talks is Lee Boso. Lee is the family life pastor at New Baptist Church in Huntington. And this past year, Lee served as president of the West Virginia Baptist Convention. So, Lee, welcome to Family Talks.
David, thank you very much. It is good to be a part of this. I've enjoyed watching many of these, and when you reached out to me and invited me to be a part of one, I was flattered and also excited.
Great. Well, before we get into the West Virginia Baptist Convention part of this, why don't you tell us just a little bit about your family?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. I have a wife. We've been married 14 years, and her name is Carmen. She teaches virtual schools for the West Virginia State Department, which is ramped up and become a very important thing during this season.
Definitely.
I have a daughter who is in fourth grade. Her name's Nina, and a son who's in kindergarten. His name's Brooks. And so they have really I think thrived or been really engaged in this whole season. I'll talk about, I guess, some of my experiences with being the president soon, but one of the interesting pieces is having the opportunity to run a lot of meetings from my living room or kitchen or dining room table.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have mirrored a whole lot of those things. My gavel has gotten a lot of use, and they have made seconds and motions and all kinds of things all over the house. And so it's been interesting to watch them play West Virginia Baptist Convention as they have been the president and vice president and everything else as we've had this time throughout this year.
It's a good experience for them. Also puts a human side on the presidency. So, uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, tell us about your past year as the president of the convention.
Uh, Trying to think about a word. One word that came to mind was unprecedented. This was not what I expected of the year. I think none of us expected 2020 to turn out like it did. However, it was a wonderful year. I uh, I think one of the things I hadn't expected and this is not even COVID related, was just the amount of people throughout the West Virginia Baptist Convention family that I would have the opportunity of being in contact with. And one of those jobs that they allude to, but you don't realize how much it's going to play into it, is the presidential appointments. And I got to make I think 30 or 40 phone calls last October and November, and speak with people and heard stories of what people are doing and what kind of ministries are happening in churches. And even when people couldn't serve, to hear some of the rationale and some of the, just super involved in their associations or their local churches or things going on with their family, and just to see God at work, starting in 2019 and moving into 2020. It was really interesting. It was really exciting, just to work with other people, and to meet people I'd never met before, or to be able to serve with people I'd heard about, but to actually get that front row seat of serving. But yeah, as the year rolled on, one of the things that I think was interesting, I knew going into it, I was a little bit younger than many of the folks I've worked with in the past, and having a young family, the big challenge I knew that was ahead of me, and we had talked about, and we decided it was worth it to serve, was I would be ex officio on boards and committees, and their meetings, and seeing last October the range of meetings that I would be invited to. And I thought about the time I'd spend on the road, and trying to make it to Cowan and to Parchment Valley and to Charleston and to all the different places I need to go for meetings.
Mm-hmm.
My goal and my hope was that I could make at least one of every variety or ministry meeting throughout this year, and that was my target. And little did I know that I would get to actually participate in a lot more meetings than I would have had this been a normal year. So my family was used to, we've got to eat dinner real quick because I've got a 6 o'clock call with the this board or committee or whoever. And so that was a normal conversation that they'd ask, who are you meeting with today? Or the amount of phone calls I was able to be a part of. And so reflecting back on the year, because of Zoom and because of just the digital nature of what happened this year, I feel like I was able to have much more involvement and much more communication with the broader convention, because it meant an hour phone call or a Zoom meeting or whatever, as opposed to sometimes 3 or 4 hours on the road to be able to attend one of those hour meetings. And so it turned out to be a blessing. And so I was excited to be able to be a part of that. But obviously there were plenty of challenges. I think heartaches that I was tied to. I have been a part of Camp Cowan for years and directing a camp. And so just the agonizing decisions that we've had to make this year of, not having in-person camps, not having in-person things at Parchment Valley and Brothers Keeper, not being able to meet for Palmer classes, and even as we chose to not do in-person annual convention, that had some like bittersweetness to it, because you think about that presiding over that meeting in person, and that is all going to pass by. However, that wasn't what this role was all about. And so it has been an unprecedented and unexpected year, but it's been a really good year too.
Well, on behalf of the convention and on behalf of the staff, I just want to thank you for the great job that you did, especially during these unprecedented times. And we were very fortunate to have you as our president. There are a lot of good things in spite of all that has gone on throughout our West Virginia Baptist Convention family, and for a lot of us personally. So I just wondered if you had any particular things you wanted to share, either about something good God did in the convention or something in your personal life, or both.
Yeah, thanks. I think one of the ways that I saw God at work this year was through connection. And that was one of the areas that I had heard some folks, friends of mine, many years ago that started to leave the convention, and one of my heartbreaks, and I think one of the areas where I began to want to get involved, was seeing people feeling like they were on the outside. And this year, I think when we weren't able to be in person and do the things we normally did, one of the things that we ramped up was this desire to be connected. And I saw that with these actually is one of the ways that being able to connect with churches and ministries that I haven't been able to connect with on a regular basis. The other thing I think is everybody church-wise, or a lot of people, went to Facebook Live. One of the things I never expected before is my phone begins to blow up around 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday mornings, because the many friends that I have that are a part of churches start to share their live Facebook feeds. And so when after church, I click my notifications and I have the opportunity to visit a dozen churches and see pastors. I've never had a chance to hear them preach before because I'm active on Sunday morning. And so being able to connect in some of those ways. But these family talks, Corrine Villers has really worked hard to gather the family life pastors and to be thinking about this new area of ministry and how do we connect with one another and connect families to the church. One of the areas that I got firsthand experience with this year was through mentoring through pastoral excellence. And I realized last year that this was going to be a big job and that I couldn't do it alone. And I needed guidance and somebody to be a sounding board. And we had this program that was starting off last year, and little did I know how much I would really need just a mentor to walk with me. And so my mentor, Lloyd Hamlin, would tell me on a number of occasions, I don't know the answer to this. We've never faced this before, but I think we're asking the right questions. And that at least was helpful when things just seemed overwhelming or unknown, to be chasing questions together with somebody who's walked down some of these paths before. And so these ways of connecting with one another have been really, really helpful. And I've seen God just at work and hearing, we didn't meet in person with Camp Cowan, but I got to see and hear of stories of churches that were taking Camp in a Box to their neighbors who'd never heard of Camp Cowan before. And Brothers Keeper at home, there were people that would have never gone there to be able to serve, but they were serving in their neighborhoods, and people were hearing about Brothers Keeper who have never even heard of Parchment Valley before. Mm-hmm. And I think it was really interesting this year that although we haven't met in person, although maybe some of our churches have not ministered in the ways that we're used to, I feel like God has been so active, and the connections between this family of believers has really, I think, been magnified, and our need for one another has really, I think we've reached out to meet that, but we've also seen opportunities to be able to do it.
That's been a really exciting part for me, is just seeing the connections that have been made and relationships that have been developed during this time. We've had pastors from all over the state get together who probably would not have gotten together before. And you talk about the questions that no one has the answers for. That's been one of the great things, is trying to figure all this out together. And so I would definitely agree with you on those. Well, speaking of celebrations and things to be excited about, we have an upcoming, well, actually 4 separate events. The West Virginia Baptist Convention Family Virtual Celebration. And that's going to be starting here actually a week from today, I think, is the first session. So you want to talk about that? You want to invite the folks? What do you have to say?
Yes, absolutely. This is exciting. And I say bittersweet to a certain extent. I love annual convention. And I had somebody ask me, well, why do you like this? And I likened it to a family reunion. There are people that I've gone on mission trips with, and this is, I think, when we gather for annual convention, that's a time when we could get together. But I also realize there's a lot of folks that have never attended an annual convention, and this is your chance. This is your chance to see just the sweet gathering of our convention, the way that we are able to do Christ's work together in incredible ways. I've seen the videos that Todd has helped put out, and it's we together. All the churches in the West Virginia Baptist Convention are able to put together a camp, and it's we together who are able to provide the School of Christian Studies and the many things that we as a West Virginia Baptist Convention are able to do together, that alone just a single church would really struggle to be able to do with such excellence. And so this is going to be a chance to highlight those. I did see the Baptist information that was put out, and the slate of each night is exciting as we get to hear from some of our missionaries. Actually, JD and Rhonda Reed were staying at our house this past week, and they were talking about their spot that they got to make. And I had the opportunity of doing one for the West Virginia Baptist Education Society. And so as odd as it is to not be in person and to be able to set up booths or have all the side conversations that we normally would have, we also do have a chance to have those spotlights and maybe to hear from all the different ministries and highlights of what this year has looked like. But the cool thing is that it's not just those that can get off on a Thursday, Friday. And some of us pastors have that flexible schedule, and you don't have to be there at that exact space or time. But we can share these videos, and we can allow people that maybe have never been to a convention to see what some of the celebrations of a convention look like, and hopefully next year we can maybe welcome new people into just being able to gather together as many people have tasted just different aspects of ministries throughout this time where we've been online. Hopefully at some point you'll find that it's even better as we get to be in person.
I've heard of churches that have planned watch parties for these events, and plus churches that have said to me, whether it's the pastor because he had to work or whether it's someone in the church, that they're really looking forward to this because they've just not been able to experience the in-person annual meeting before. So it's a great opportunity. I've got to
Absolutely.
close with one quick thing today. You may not know this, or you may not even remember it, but you are a hero in our family because many years ago, we were going on vacation. Actually, we were going out of the country, and this is when you were at Cowan. And my son decided he didn't want to go. So I called you on the phone and I said, if I send my son to Cowan for a week to work for free, would you feed him and give him a place to sleep? And you said, yes, send him down. So we have always appreciated the fact that we actually got to go on our vacation, relax and enjoy ourselves because you put my son to work for a week. So I don't know if I ever publicly thanked you for that, but I'll do that now.
Well, thank you.
Back to the convention. Thank you so much for being the president this past year, and thank you for what you do in ministry, and thank you for your friendship. And we'll look forward to our paths crossing down the road. So, folks, thank you. I hope you'll join us next week for Family Talks.